Welcome to In Studio from Simply Timeless. I'm Jay Daniels. Vocalist La Tanya Hall is no stranger to the entertainment industry. For many years, she's worked alongside many of the greats in the world of jazz and pop. Plus, she's done a bit of acting, with roles in shows like Blue Bloods. Last year, La Tanya released a solo album called Say Yes. In the interview, we talk about La Tanya's career and the inspiration behind this new release. Here's La Tanya Hall.
I've been with Steely Dan for 8 years. I did Diana Ross. My first gig was with Harry Belafonte, who I met in Denver. And they were looking to replace a singer who was leaving. And the sound man for his band was the sound man for an R&B cover band that I had in college. And he had recommended me for the gig. And I ended up getting it. So I moved from Colorado, quit my day job, which was working for a publicity firm, and moved to New York. And that's how it all started, with me touring. And then because it's a sort of small world, as you begin to meet people who do these kinds of tours, when other artists are looking for singers, then it's typically word of mouth. You get recommended to do these particular tours. I think the only one I ever auditioned for, just straight out, like from a back page ad, was Diana Ross, and ended up getting that gig.
That is something. Her recordings with the Supremes from the 1960s are among my favorites. Absolutely.
They're amazing. And, here's the thing. Even I was touring with her in the early to mid 2000s. She still sounded amazing.
Oh, yes. She's one of those remarkable talents who has been able to keep at it for so many years. And to be able to work with this wide variety of performers, these were not all jazz musicians, obviously. And I think your greatest benefit or your greatest advantage is that your vocal talents are so versatile. How did you develop this versatility? What did you have to, how did you have to challenge yourself to be so versatile?
For me, music is everything. And I think if I didn't have it, that I don't know where I would be in this world, because I've always just sort of immersed myself in music since I could remember. And what I was very interested in musically, aside from just the different genres and different styles, was sound. So the timbre of voices, the approach to how you sing. So I spent a lot of time really studying the artists that I was listening to, and really studying how they made sound, and studying how to mutate my voice to approximate that different sound. And what people don't understand is that being a successful backup singer or being a successful support artist really requires, it's an art form. And that's what I tell people. Not everybody can do it. Even some of the best singers in the world, if you put them in a situation where they have to blend or approximate a sound with another artist, they would not be able to do it. So I think it placed me in good stead to have sort of that weird fascination with timbre and with sound, and how I can make my voice sort of match tone and match sound, that has allowed me to be able to do so many vastly different kinds of tours, because I've done everything from like rock, pop, like serious rock pop with Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
Yes.
All the way to, I did 17 years with Bobby McFerrin, doing a hybrid of everything from world music to jazz to R&B to Hungarian folk singing, right? So I've really loved what I've been able to do with my voice, and where it's taken me in the world, which is all over the place.
I remember one of the first times I heard Bobby McFerrin. I was a kid, and he had done a recording for Disney, of all things, back in the early 90s. I think it was for an album called Simply Mad About the Mouse. And it was a VHS CD companion. And so they had animated music videos for each of these songs. And Bobby McFerrin's was the Siamese Cat song from Lady and the Tramp. And that was the very first time I heard him. And his talent continues to amaze me. And what you were mentioning, being able to mutate your voice, being able to adjust, that's the difference between being solely a successful soloist and singing, say, in a choral environment where you have multiple voices. And for you, even after many years of having served as a backup singer, having collaborated with other artists, you still wanted to do your own work. And that happened in 2008, I believe, with an album called It's About Time.
Well, yes, actually, I had done a dance record that had been picked up for MCA in 1992. It ended up getting shelved, and I think there was a limited release in Europe and Japan. And then I sort of was on the road for a very long period of time, doing a lot of different things, including a Broadway show that I did for 10 months. And then I got an offer to do my own record in 2008 and returning to my jazz roots, doing a big band record. And I sort of jumped at the chance because at that point I was really ready to do my own thing, to step out of the shadow of the whole movie 20 Feet from Stardom, and to sort of make my way to the front of the stage. I think I was ready for that. And
then 12 years later, you have another album out called Say Yes, which that's how I found you. And it is a fresh interpretation of a number of standards. In fact, some of them speak about talking, offering an answer, Whisper Not, one of the songs on the album. That's your most recent release. I want to ask you, how did you approach that particular idea for Say Yes, which came out, I believe, last year in 2019?
So I approached it from a couple of different places. The first one being songs that just resonated with me. But the songs that were resonating with me during the period where I was choosing material for the record, there were a lot of instrumentals that I found that started out as instrumentals but later had words added. In particular, a couple of Thelonious Monk tunes and Whisper Not, which was, of course, a Benny Golson tune. But All You Need to Say was, it was on the Cannonball Adderley Nancy Wilson record, and it was an instrumental that came out in the 60s, and then words weren't added until 1992 by Chris Caswell. Songs like Well You Needn't, Panonica, right, which were Well You Need and Panonica are two Thelonious Monk tunes that were instrumentals, where John Hendricks later added words to them. And so that was the genesis of starting to find tunes that I sort of fell in love with. And my husband is a wonderful pianist and arranger, and he really turned these songs on their ears with the arrangements that he was able to do.
And tell us his name, because he's also a well-known musician in many circles.
Yes, he's a genius. I feel very lucky that I got to marry this man. His name is Andy Milne, and he's a Juno. He won the Juno last year, which is it's the Canadian Grammy for Jazz Album of the Year for his own compositions. But he's had a long and wonderful career as a pianist and arranger.
And what strikes me most about your vocals, the biggest challenge that I know that most musicians have, and it was a challenge for me, is being able to find their own voice. There are so many vocalists, especially, as soon as I hear them, I'll say, they're Sarah Vaughan, or that's Nancy Wilson, or they're singing like Billie Holiday. Whereas with yours, I said, that's La Tanya Hall.
Oh, thank you. That is the best compliment ever.
Well, I don't give those lightly. But for this project, what was the tone? What was the sort of atmosphere that you and Andy were trying to set with these arrangements?
Let me first start with my approach to how I learn a song. And I think that will give you an idea of why we did the arrangements that we did. I'm all about the lyric. I'm not trying to dazzle with necessarily what I can do with my voice, more so than pay homage to the story that needs to be told through the lyric. And so when we were doing the arrangements, Andy would often come to me and he'd say, well, I thought about this for the tune, and we would sort of play through it, and I'd try to see how it fit with the language of what it was that I was trying to communicate. And it was very important that the arrangements that we did and also the way that I sang it really reflected the mood and the character of the story that needed to be told. So we weren't necessarily trying to set an overall mood with the record, as we were trying to give absolute respect to the lyrics and absolute respect to the melody that the original composer intended.
When you read those lyrics, and I think there's a difference between reading and singing them, because I have found this: if you don't understand the lyric and you don't understand the story, you can't sing it with your very best.
Preach. That's all I can say. Preach. That's what I live by. That's what I live by. Honestly, musically, that we have a job to do. As singers, we have a job to do, and that's to be a storyteller and to be an honest storyteller, to tell a really honest story with what we're singing. What
are the stories that best connect with you on an emotional level?
Well, there's a beautiful song in there called "Because I Told You So." That was written by Jonathan Brooke, who's another singer who it's really hard to categorize what she does, but lyrically, I find her to be on a par with Joni Mitchell in terms of the story that she tells. And it's a song about telling someone that you love them and they don't believe you. Or they don't feel worthy of the love that you're trying to give them. And when I first heard the song and I first really tuned into the lyrics, it broke my heart, because I think it's a universal truth that people can relate to. I think we've all had those relationships where you're trying to give love and the person you're with just doesn't get your sincerity or get the level of the gift of love that you're trying to give them. So it was, I really loved singing that song, and I really love every time I get an opportunity to do it live.
Before Andy, was there a time in your life where you experienced that yourself?
Yes.
So that's why it connected so deeply then.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think we as artists, that's why we choose certain tunes, is because we can connect to it. Honestly, it does harken back to an emotional memory in our lives.
I want to dig a little bit deeper, this idea of a story. This album, being a footnote in your career, being another chapter in your story. How does this impact your life story, this work that you've done on this album and the work you're going to continue to do after it?
Wow. That's a very interesting question. I loved the album that I put out in 2008. I thought it was a beautiful record, but I feel like this record, Say Yes, is the first time where I am 1,000% invested in every note that went into this record. Every song was a song of my choosing. In other words, the album in 2008, I love that record, but it was my producer's vision. And some of the tunes that we did were tunes that he recommended to me. He did the arrangements. It was very big band centric. And it was, and I loved being a part of that. But this is the first one where I chose every tune. My husband and I collaborated on the arrangements, and I was invested in every single note that went on the record. I'm hoping that this is just a further stepping stone so that I can take the music to the next level and continue to explore new works, continue to explore my own writing of original music and collaborating more with my husband on that, and just taking everything to the next level.
I'll wrap up with this question. Why music?
Because it's like breathing. I wouldn't know what else to do. It's everything to me. It's everything in my life. It's what inspires me. It's what gives me hope. It's what cheers me when I'm sad. It's what keeps me moving forward.
La Tanya Hall, our in-studio guest from Simply Timeless. The album is called Say Yes, and it's available from your preferred music service. More information is available at latanyahall.com. Special thanks to Lydia Liebman for introducing us to Latanya's music. Until we meet again, I'm Jay Daniels. Thanking you for joining us in studio.